Hello to all our friends and family out there in financial advisor group world. We are here for episode number 15. For some reason that sounds like a big number. Here, Ben and I back on rapid fire number 15. Ben, how's your March been?
March is good. I just got back from New York City. It was a little rainy, but it's warming up, so that's nice. And my March Madness bracket still holding in there, kind of. My pick Michigan, which I don't think we released last time our picks, but Damien and I think both picked Michigan,
Yep.
and we're still hanging in there for now. This could change by the time we release the video. Who knows?
Yeah, I think I guess it will, the beginning theme of our video sort of fits from the market's perspective of March Madness. I think the weather goes with March Madness. I mean, I think we've all experienced, like you said, if it could have been 75 in New York or 25 in New York and snowing. So who knows? It's been a mad March, that's certainly for sure. And I guess as we lead that over, although one last note on basketball, I don't think I've ever rooted for Michigan before, so that's tough for me. That's tough for me to have them in there, you know. But leading into the mark, we talked about this last time, right? This when we get into situations like what we're going through right now, it's tough, it's difficult. And we've talked about this probably for the last 6 months that we thought this market was showing signs that it needed to take a break. The hard part has been the market doesn't go down because of rainbows and unicorns, right? It always goes down for a scary reason. And when that reason happens, whether it's a war in Iran, whether it's tariffs a year ago, whether it's COVID shutting down the economy, in the midst of that moment, it is scary because it's unpredictable and you don't know where we're going. And we get that. And we'd say we get that this is an unpredictable environment, but we've been here before. And I think we'll lead into that in a little bit before, but not much has changed in our view is that we just don't know what path this takes, and we get it. We knew the market needed to take a break. The hard part is it never takes a break for a good reason. We just don't know what that is, and when it happens, it sort of catches us by surprise and does scare us a little bit.
Yeah. And despite being scary, to try and normalize it a little, our next chart is this is like excluding the actual cause, because every cause for these drops is usually abnormal. If it's repeated, if it's the same thing happening every year, the markets is just gonna like ignore it. But it's an abnormal event that's happening, but it's normal having abnormal events. So the
Very well
next
said.
chart we have up is a chart that we like, and the title is what I like the most. Volatility is the toll we pay to invest. If you want, 6+% in returns, like if you want to have some sort of market-like participation, like the S&P 500, one of the riskiest ways, people have said it can annualize over a very long period of time, 10% per year. If you want that, you have to be comfortable with some pretty bad volatility. If you only want flat line, you never want any price change, you're probably going to get, what a CD gets on a long-term basis, maybe like one plus percent, 1 to 2% at best. So to get good rates of return, to get market participation, we have to have some volatility. So it is a normal thing. Damien and I just checked, in the S&P 500, the market is down around 5.5% from the peak. Looking at this chart, that happens on average, like almost 4 times per year.
Yep.
So it is uncomfortable because of what's happening, the reason why the market's down. But in just data terms, it is something that is common. We've already hit the 3%. We're pretty much at the 5%, and even so. 1 time on average per year, the market is down around 10%. So just to try and make you feel a little bit more comfortable that it is not abnormal to have these sort of volatile events.
And like you said, it's normal, but doesn't mean it feels good, right? And I think I'll go back to one comment you made there, is something we used to say to clients all the time. It predates Ben, I think, but a TV show called The Facts of Life, where the theme song was, "You take the good, you take the bad, and there you have the facts of life." You can't just take one of them. You got to take both. And I think that leads us into our next chart as we look through this, is continuing down the theme of volatility, that these things are normal. But not every time that the market falls 5 to 10% does the market actually fall into further territory. So don't want to dive into this in too much detail, but just if you look, 63% of the time when the market falls 5%, it never gets to 10, right? So that's the majority of the time we don't get there. But we need to be aware that about, 35+% of the time it does get a little bit worse, right? Sometimes it does get to that technical 10% correction, which is about 25% of the time. And about 12% of the time we turn into one of those scary bears. And I'd say today, like, corrections are healthy and normal, and we don't mind them. Bears are scary. And right now we just don't know, but I think we need to be aware that this is part of the toll we pay to invest at this point in time. And I think our point, and it sort of leads us into our next thoughts as we talk through this, is if you're prepared, you don't need to be as scared. And Ben, do you want to sort of
Yeah.
lead us through that thought process?
Sure. Yeah, because growing up, it was ingrained. Like preparedness was ingrained in me because I was in scouting, so Boy Scouts, and our motto was "Be prepared." Very simple, straightforward. But every sort of thing, if we ever made a mistake or like we forgot a tent for our backpacking trip, it was always like a joke, like, "Oh, you should have been prepared." So we have a nice little graphic up that kind of has, a tent and everything, and it's the quote is, "If you are prepared for your camping trip, you do not have to worry as much about what the elements will be like." So, if you have a waterproof tent, if it doesn't rain, great. You still have your tent, and it still functions like a normal tent. But if it does rain, you're not getting wet. Same, you pack your raincoat, yeah, whatever it is, and same like in the kayak there. If being prepared, having a life raft or some sort of flotation device. You're probably not going to fall in, but if you do fall in, you can't swim. You're prepared that you're not going to be stranded out there and sink. So
Sounds like
yeah,
Ben
that's
might have
just
some experience with non-prepared camping. I don't know if that's
no. I was a good camper. My mom always made me. I would joke packing the kitchen sink, so she would
Yep.
pack everything. And I even had issues at airports at various times because she packed like a butter knife in my carry-on without telling me, and then I had to go through extra security because I had a knife in my carry-on. So I almost had too much.
And I
Um,
think as we think through, like, we'd rather be more prepared. How do we tie this into what we're talking about, right? That we talked about this last week. If we have cash needs set aside, we're prepared for things like this. And take that analogy a little bit further, right? Ben used the example of a waterproof tent. What if even food? If I bring my own food on the trip, right? I can sit down, relax, and enjoy and look for opportunities to go take a walk to the stream, go take a chance to fish. However, if I didn't bring any food, I have to take all this time now to go find that food. So by being prepared, I can look for opportunities to enjoy the trip more. Same thing with investing. If we're prepared, we can now flip the script and say maybe some opportunities will be created here and we can take advantage of it, as opposed to coming into these events unprepared as a camper and having to just sort of rush around and figure things out when that rain's coming. If I'm prepared, I can relax and take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves. So I think we'll hope we're all as prepared as Ben was, and we don't get in trouble for taking knives on planes, Ben. Man, that's a
yeah, don't do that. That
rep,
was a life lesson.
rep,
And I think I was in middle school at the time, so I was very innocent and had no idea what was going on.
so
But
yeah, go ahead, Ben.
yeah, to kind of bring it full circle, and I guess getting into our next subject, kind of where the economy sits is our K-shaped economy. So we're still seeing spending in those higher level areas. So we have a nice thing up to talk about the IMAX theater boom. So if you would look at just theaters in general, they're not doing a whole lot. I mean, they're not doing great. They've definitely don't have like record attendance to movies, things like that. But the IMAX, if you haven't been to IMAX, it's usually more uh, a better experience all around. So you have better speakers, you have a better viewing experience. There's IMAX 3D, so it's a bigger screen, all that stuff. So it's not that more people are going to theaters, but more people are spending on the higher tier things. So we're seeing a continuance in that as IMAX just posted record revenue of 1.28 billion in 2025. And I was a contributor to that. I saw Avatar, which is very cool in an IMAX because you have, things flying at you all the time. And I don't go to the movies a whole lot, but when I do go, I want to have that elevated service. I don't want to just have the same experience that I would have if I was, sitting in my living room.
And I think that sort of to wrap up the thoughts is that I think that's a theme of the world today, right? Is that we're experiencing things on a level no one's ever experienced before, right? IMAX is a great example. There's less people in total going to movie theaters, but when they go, they want the best experience possible. And the hard part is, right, they also cost more to experience that. You can say the same thing with cars today, right? Cars do cost more, but your car driving experience is so different from what it was 30 years ago driving a pickup truck of, the 1970s versus a pickup truck today. They're not even the same thing. Going to a movie theater in the 70s and 80s versus going to an IMAX theater, they're not the same thing. The houses we live in today, right? So it continues that theme, like you said, Ben, of yes, things may cost more, but we're experiencing levels we've never experienced, whether it's seeing a movie, driving a car, the houses we live in, the vacations we take. That there's a cost to this, but man, there's some great experiences. And I think people are choosing, if I'm going to do this, I want to remember it, right? And you'll remember seeing Avatar in IMAX, where if I asked you what last movie you saw before that, you might not, right? I just remember the popcorn because as long as the popcorn's good, I'm happy. That's my number one thing about movie theaters. Um,
Do you like the butter dispensers? Are you one of those?
it depends. Usually I'm good. I mean, that's my favorite part of a movie is the popcorn. A lot of times I can go without the butter, maybe salt,
Yeah,
but without the butter, but just something about movie theater popcorn,
it
So,
is good. Yeah.
so again, thank you to everyone for tuning in for rapid fire number 15. I think, Ben, what were we up to? About 128 subscribers now, I think it has been. Something around that number?
138.
130, somewhere in that number.
Well, let's
Um,
get to 150. So if you
there you
haven't
go.
subscribed and you're
Yep.
still watching at this point in the video, make sure you subscribe. We'd appreciate it.
And again, any thoughts, suggestions you have for us, we're open to it. We are going to have another educational video coming up in the next couple months with our special star, superstar Mary, who tends to get us some good visibility. So thank you again, as always. Rapid fire number 15 is out. Hang in there. March Madness is underway. Enjoy watching the sports. And I think the weather will get better. I'll blame Ben if it doesn't. Um,
Yeah, enjoy spring.
all right. Thank you all.